Welcome to the Aging Well Firefighter, the podcast for first responders, our families, and the communities we serve. Whether you're on the front lines or standing with us, I'm here to help you fight wisely and age bravely. It was September of 2006, and I had just lost a lot of weight. I was trying to keep the momentum going. So when my indoor exercise bike broke down, I decided running was the next logical step, literally, and went out to try it. I had never, ever been a runner before. So, spoiler alert, it ended badly. I went about 2 blocks and thought I was going to die. I was doubled over, hands on my knees, face pointing down toward the ground, thinking that I was probably going to vom. And wondering what possessed me to even try this. I immediately swore it off. I just decided I wasn't a runner. I was not going to be a runner ever. It was not for me. And I went on to a plan B and found a different form of cardio to continue on with my scheduled workout. Fast forward. And if you read my article at all that this podcast is based on, you know where I'm going to go with this. Fast forward, I was introduced to the sport of triathlon, which I previously had not known. Triathlon involves a swim followed by a bike. Yay, I loved to swim, loved to bike. Followed by a run. And I had sworn running off. I was convinced that running was not for me. But a funny thing happened. I decided to try it again. Just to say that I had done the triathlon, I thought that was a fun, cool thing. And it turned out that after I got a little coaching, after I learned how to pace myself, after I learned how to breathe properly, it turned out I was actually a pretty good runner. I went on to do, 12, 13 half iron distance triathlons. I don't even know how many 5K, 10K half marathon races I've done. How many short course triathlons, the sprint distance. I've done more than a dozen marathons. And a few ultramarathons, including my longest race being a 50-miler. And here's my point. I was convinced by one bad experience that running was not for me. How many of us let one bad experience close a door forever? Forever on an experience, on a career choice, on a college major or a class, on EMS or fire, the emergency services. How many of us let one bad experience close a door forever? And that's really what I want to talk about today, is not letting that one failure define you. As I mentioned, this is based on an article that I wrote about that very topic, about the power of trying again. That story of my first attempt at running after losing that weight and swearing to never run again is not the only time that I had that experience. And it's not the only time that my mind eventually became changed about something I had sworn off before. Picture this. I was in 5th grade And I decided with my best friend that I was going to audition for a kids musical with a local community theater group. They were performing Oliver and were looking for young people to audition. I had never sung at an audition before. I had never been to an audition before. Aside from the little skits and things in kindergarten, first grade, whatever, I had never acted. And aside from being in, say, the kids' choir at a parochial school, I went to a parochial school through third grade, after which I went to a public school. Aside from being in a kids' choir at a parochial school for, say, Christmas, I had never sung publicly. Backstage, waiting to go out for my audition. This was a solo audition. I had to sing in front of an auditorium full of people who were judging me. And the nerves were kicking in. Back then, I didn't realize that excitement and nervous anxiety have the same physiological symptoms. They look very, very similar physiologically. The difference is the mindset. If you have a positive mindset, you can change that anxiety into excitement and use that energy. I didn't realize that at the time. So I was back there being nervous as all get-go. I turned to my best friend and I said, my plan is I'm going to go out there, I'm going to sing loud, and I'm going to sing strong. And that's exactly what I did. I went out there and I sang loud and strong, and probably too loud and too strong. Just like my first attempt at running, I think I went out way too hard, and so hard that I'm pretty sure it sounded like I was shouting. I'm sure I remember my voice cracking. I was in fifth grade after all. And truth be told, I think that backstage I had gotten into my own head so much that I was probably way off key. I could not have been more embarrassed. I was just mortified. And walking off stage, did you ever feel like the whole world was pointing at you and laughing? Because that's how I felt. And it certainly didn't help that my so-called best friend was doing exactly that. He was pointing at me and he was laughing out loud about how badly I had screwed up. And he actually literally said, you pointed at me and said, you screwed up, ha ha ha. And yeah, he was not a very supportive friend. And like my first attempt at running, after that experience, the embarrassment and that sense of failure, I was certain that I was not cut out for singing. I swore it off. And in fact, in eighth grade, just a couple years later, in eighth grade, I was asked to take part in a school play, a musical, because they didn't have enough actors to put it on. And the teacher had a feeling that I would be good at that. Good on her, by the way. So I agreed to do it on one condition. This was a musical. I agreed to do it only if the song that my character had to sing would get cut from the show. I told the music director I just could not sing, but I was willing to try acting. It sounded like fun. Now, here's what surprised me there. I discovered through that process that I loved the theater and I loved acting. And I went on the following year in ninth grade to audition for and get a large part in my high school's spring play, which as a freshman was a rarity. They usually didn't give the larger roles to freshmen. especially freshmen who hadn't acted in a high school play before. Now, my school also did a fall musical. They did a fall musical and a spring play, but I had skipped auditioning for that fall musical that year because I was absolutely certain I just did not have a talent for singing, and I did not want to have to be forced to sing. I wound up doing really well in that spring play. So well that the drama director, who also happened to be the music teacher, encouraged me to try out for the fall musical. She could tell I was really, really apprehensive about that, but she offered to audition me individually, not in front of everybody else, and to give me some pointers on singing if she felt like I needed any. So I'd be out of earshot from other students and wouldn't have to experience that embarrassment again. It turns out I had a fantastic voice that had just laid dormant for years because I let that one bad experience shut me down. I was, and I feel I still am, a terrific singer. I actually wound up with the male lead in that fall musical production, which is absolutely unheard of for a sophomore. And I went on to star in every other school play. I loved it so much. Became a member of the school choir, the madrigal choir. I competed in solo and ensemble. I went on to major in theater, to work with community theater groups, with semi-professional theater groups. And I've had leading roles in a lot of plays and musicals. I've also served as a music director at 2 different churches and a lead singer at 2 churches. And I love to sing. But you know what? I never would have known that if it weren't for that high school music teacher, that drama director, who showed me such empathy and such encouragement. So here's a lesson that I've taken away from this, that I've learned over the years. That lesson is, don't let one bad experience ruin you for something. If you're trying something for the first time, no one does anything great the first time. We learn more through our failures than through our successes. Don't let other people get under your skin like my so-called best friend did. If there's anything I've learned in the fire service, is that there's no shortage of people who are willing to criticize you for trying something new, for trying something out of the norm, for getting out of your comfort zones. And there's no shortage of people who are willing to paint a target on your back for exactly that. I don't know why they do it. Don't let them get under your skin. And don't let them get in your head. Most importantly, don't get into your own head like I did backstage waiting for that audition. There are ways to bring that anxiety down, to turn that anxiety into excitement and use the energy you get from it for whatever you're going to do. And lastly, give yourself some grace. Understand that nobody does anything perfect the first time. A lot of times nobody does even does anything well the first time. Give yourself some grace and some room to grow, and accept that grace from others too. If I hadn't taken up that music teacher, that drama director, on her offer of an individual audition and some coaching, who knows where I'd be now? I met my wife through the theater. Where would I be if I hadn't given myself grace over running and circled back to try it again, who knows where I'd be? I love to run now. Triathlon was a huge part of my life. Where would I be? Sometimes, just like with me and that choir teacher, that music teacher, sometimes all it takes is one person's encouragement to completely change your story. Who knows where my story would have ended up? But more importantly, sometimes all it takes is some encouragement from you to change someone else's story. Who can you encourage today, tomorrow, this week, this month? Who can you pass along that same grace that you've received, that same encouragement that maybe you've received from somebody else? Who can you pay that forward to? Here's what I want you to do. Listener, here's what I want you to do. Revisit an old fear, or try something new, something that maybe you thought you'd be embarrassed by. Try it. Or support someone else's second chance. Give someone else encouragement. Help them grow. And who knows how much you could grow by helping that. I want to invite you to reach out and share your own story. Do you have a story of encouragement that could help someone else? Reach out. And if you're willing, I would love to share it or have you on to talk about it. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, reach out on social media, drop a note in the comments. And until the next time, listener, fight wisely, age bravely.